All right, we're starting the next lesson. And it's a good thing that we are going to have this lesson after finishing the writing section lessons. Today I'm going to talk about something that's quite challenging. One of them is an essential part of debating. You really have to know it. And the other one is really challenging, but some people consider it a dishonest way of winning debates. Some people consider it cheating. I consider it high risk, high reward move. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. The lesson will be divided in two parts. The first part, I'll be talking about the emotional appeal, and during the second half, I will talk about the rule of three. Without further ado, let me just share my screen. Not this. Whoop. Right. I will have not this. Where is it? It's over here. Right. So, the emotional appeal. The emotional appeal refers to a trick that you people, debaters, can use to get what you want in a slightly dishonest way. Because from the very beginning, we've started these lessons, and even last year, I've always insisted on the fact that a debate is a debate is founded on logic and sources. So you really need to draw your arguments and examples from trustworthy sources. You need to have statistics. You need to have an objective tone to what you're saying. And I still stand by that. By all means, that's what you should do. However, there are things that you could do in certain cases. The emotional appeal lets you manipulate people. It lets you tap into their feelings to get what you want. So you win an argument by playing mind games with people, actually. I will tell you how to do it. I have come up with some good examples. I think that it will be very clear about what it refers to. David has a question. David?
Is this the thing some people consider cheating?
This is the thing that some people consider cheating. And the reason why I said that it's a high risk, high reward move is because you need to adapt to the situation. You need to know who the judge is and who the opponents are. Now, uh, how do you do this? You try to get an emotional reaction from the opponents or the audience or the judge. So you don't really focus on what's logical, you don't focus on their brain, you focus on their heart. And it's something that's very difficult to control. And people who are good debaters know how to abuse this. And it's a very common thing in politics as well, because people have learned how to use it to their advantage. However, with experienced judges and experienced opponents, there is a risk that they will call your bluff. And as stated over here in this paragraph, it says emotional appeals are often effective, but are generally considered naive or dishonest as a logical argument. Since they often appeal to the prejudices of listeners rather than offer a good assessment of a situation. So, what this means is you actually don't focus on the logical aspect of the argument and the statistics and what can be proved, but you're talking about feelings and emotions, and you're trying to draw the attention of the judge and the opponent. There are three main ways how you can achieve that. There are more, but this is just the basic. So, the emotional appeal can be accomplished in these ways. First of all, by a metaphor or storytelling, which functions as the hook. It's what engages the listener to listen even more attentively. It's a good thing that we just finished the writing part because it will contribute to the emotional appeal. I have a very good example further along, and you'll be able to recognize it. The second one is by a general passion in the delivery. Uh, you always have to sound persuasive. for the things that you believe in. So if you want to get the message across, you really need to deliver the speech appropriately, because you can find really good sources and statistics that no one could oppose, like saying that, I don't know, let's say that that the Human Rights Organization has conducted a study, and the results show that there is a stark inequality between girls and boys, and that because of that, boys are in a much superior position than girls. So if you state this in a speech, in a debate, no one will be able to go against you. It's what the study shows. It was conducted by the Organization for Human Rights. So they wouldn't be able to really go against it. However, if you just say it in a very monotone manner, if you just say, well, the Human Rights Organization has conducted a study, and the study shows that boys and girls are not equal, and that there is a stark inequality there, and because of that, boys are in a much superior position than girls, and girls suffer the consequences. It doesn't matter what you're saying. If you say it that way, you don't deserve to be a debater. No one speaks like that. You should try to emphasize certain words, and you should be careful about the delivery. You should be able to persuade the others. So if you are talking about this and you have this weapon in your hands, because it is a weapon, having the right statistics is a weapon, what you need to do is to say, we found that the Human Rights Organization conducted a study on the inequality between girls and boys, and they found out that there is a stark inequality, and because of that, boys are in a superior position while girls suffer the consequences. So if you say it that way, people will be engaged, people will listen to it, and they will believe you. So it's not just about having the right sentence, it's about how you say it. And the last one is by the sympathies of the speech or writing as determined by the audience. So what this means is, I'll give you an example. If you're talking about injustice and human rights, and you see that the judge in front of you is an African American, because that could happen at a global round. If the judge is African American, you would probably be able to get to him or her by talking about the cases of police brutality in USA against African American people. This person will not be able to defend himself rationally against that. So if you want to use the emotional appeal, you have to be quick on your toe. You have to be on your toes all the time, and you have to think quick. You have to assess the situation to know how you can abuse, not use, abuse the situation to win the affection of the judge or the opponents. So I'd like to continue with an example for the first case, because I suppose that this will be the case that you will mostly use. I don't expect that you will use the third one. It requires a lot of experience to pull it off properly. The second one is a must. It should come naturally, but the first one is something that I can teach. So pay attention. If we assume, let me just put this a bit down so you don't see it. So if we assume that the statement, the motion is zoos should be banned, and let's assume that we are the negative team, this is what I would say. I would say something which is very logical. You can see over here that the argument is logical and the example is quite objective as well. It's on point. If you do this, you should be able to win the debate, because it is expected of you. The vocabulary is good, grammar is good, topic-specific vocabulary, so everything's fine. So I would say this. Today's motion is whether zoos should be banned. We believe that's the case because zoo confinement is psychologically damaging to animals. First of all, animal experts often see zoo animals suffering from problems not seen in the wild, such as anxiety in giraffes. For example, the animals experience these issues due to smaller enclosures, changes in diet and activities, and the introduction of things not seen in the wild, such as medical exams and people with cameras. All in all, it sounds like a well-rounded argument. It's a good reason for you to suggest that zoos should be banned. Now, this is the normal thing that I've been teaching you how to do from the very beginning. David, you have a question?
I think you can use the emotional appeal here. I mean, I don't know if it's considered the emotional appeal. Can I say what I think?
Can I show it first? And you
Yeah, sure.
confirm if you were right or wrong. So
Yes,
now
okay,
I
okay.
will show you a variation, an option, where I've decided to change this example with the emotional appeal. Now, in any given case, I would rather go with this one, what you can see over here. But if my team is underperforming, if we are really behind, I need to do something risky to turn the tables. So I've decided to go with an example which uses the emotional appeal. And this is what I've done over here. I'll read the whole thing so you can feel the flow. Today's motion is that zoos should be banned, and we strongly believe that's the case because zoo confinement is psychologically damaging to animals. First of all, animal experts often see zoo animals suffering from problems not seen in the wild, such as anxiety in giraffes. Just imagine the poor giraffe not being able to move where it wants, and imagine it crying and screaming every night alone in their tiny cage with metal bars. And what happens then? The zookeeper comes and beats it until it stops or gives it pills to calm down. Is that what giraffes should feel like? Should they be put in prison just because they're so beautiful? So that's the emotional appeal. You can see that there are no facts over here whatsoever. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to get an emotional reaction from you to feel sad about the giraffe. And I'm doing it in a storytelling manner. I told you a story about this giraffe being in the prison and gets beaten up. And you can protect yourself against imagining that because you can imagine the giraffe being stuck in the prison. So I did get a reaction from you, but is it the right thing to do? Is it not dishonest to plant that picture in your mind? Yana has
Can
a
I say
question.
something?
Yana, yes.
It's genuine blackmail. Like if they don't get an emotional reaction from you, and if they don't respond to that emotionally, then you're gonna say, well, are you one of those people that wants giraffes to be beaten up every day?
That's the thing. That's the thing.
You're using it against them.
Yep, that's right. Neda, you have a question?
I wanted to ask, can we do this? It sounds kind of wrong. It sounds like we're just trying to get to the judges, like
Yep.
emotionally, and it doesn't sound professional. It sounds like.
You're absolutely right, and I'm glad that you recognize that because I've taught you well. However, you are allowed to use it just use it once. Don't overdo it. Use it once a debate to prove your point. Because especially when you are behind the other team, Neda. So if you feel that you're going to lose, this is like a last resort thing. Use it. There's nothing to lose. One thing that I would like to note before I give David the chance to ask is never ever use the emotional appeal as an argument. Never do that because you will sound like you weren't able to do research enough and that you're just freestyling. Never. But you can do a good combination if you provide some statistics in the argument, if it's an objective argument that everyone would agree with, and then you change the example to an emotional appeal to reinforce your idea, to reinforce or strengthen the argument. Then it could pass. However, I have to note something. If you try to use this on me, I would feel offended. I would be like, is she really trying to pull that off? I'm not going to give her any marks because of that. But the good thing is that most teachers are not so good at debating. I mean, I don't feel comfortable saying that, but most of the teachers, even English teachers, don't teach debating. So they don't know the subtleties of debating. Yes, of course, they're familiar with the basics, with the template and the format and everything, delivery, but this is a very subtle move. And people won't be able to recognize it, especially if you are competing against opponents who are not as experienced as you are. So if you see that there are some noobs who are debating for the first time, you can abuse this. I would consider it wrong. However, if you're at the global round and you see that these people are shaking in front of you, that they don't really feel comfortable about debating, if you use this, I mean, it's over. So, to summarize, Try not to use it, but if you do use it only as a last resort, use it as an example, never an argument. David?
Teacher, yes, it was the thing I was thinking about, and I know it because I studied on debate against Ben Shapiro in an interview about guns for the USA, and the reporter used this against him,
Right.
and he recognized it and called him out.
Yes, so people do that. I have actually provided the third example. It is for the motion that everyone should be allowed to own a gun. So the argument that I have found over here is that statistics show that 109 people in the US die every day to firearm accidents. The logical example would be to talk about the crime rate, to explain that this is what's going on and this is how it could be solved, this is what we need to do. But a person who would use the emotional appeal would say something like, let me try to do it. I wasn't going to, it was just an extra option, but let's go for it. So I would say today's motion is that everyone should own a gun. We are strongly against this idea. First of all, the statistics show that 109 people in the US die every day due to firearm accidents. Just imagine your child, your son, or your daughter walking down the street at night with her friends or with his friends, and they get mugged by a person holding a gun. Imagine it. Imagine how afraid, how frightened your child would be because someone, a lunatic, was given the right to own a gun. You see? If you said that to me, if you said that about my daughter, even though I don't have a child, I would react to it. It's only natural because you are abusing my human nature. So it's a bit like cheating, to be honest. But you could get results. It's up to you. Now that you know it, it's up to you to decide whether you use it or not. If you're asking me, don't ever use it, but it's up to you, as I said. Sometimes the motion can be really unbalanced. We've all debated on motions which are easier for one team and not the other one. Maybe then you could use it. Maybe. Now, we're going to do a test. Does anyone have a question about this? Because we're going to do a short test for this, like a short example. So, let me just summarize that emotional appeal manipulates with the emotions of people, the judge and the opponents. It can be done in 3 different ways: by storytelling, which is something that I want you to learn how to do, because if you learn how to do it, you will be able to recognize it if someone else does it against you. And I'll tell you how to protect yourselves against it. And being passionate in the delivery. This is something that's a bit more subtle. It's really dishonest that I will not even mention it. I think that I provided you with a very good example here. The first one is what you should do. The second one is what you could do. David, you have a question again?
Yes, if we recognize them doing that, can we like call them out on it?
You can, but not that straightforward. You cannot say, hey, why are you using the emotional appeal? No, what you could do, imagine, David, that you used this against me about the poor giraffe crying in the cage.
Okay.
What I would do is, yes, we understand the previous speaker. Everyone would react in that way about the poor giraffe. However, we don't have the evidence. We don't have the numbers. What we care about in order this is a very serious motion, whether zoos should be banned or not. And we cannot base our argument only about how people feel. We need to see the statistics. How many giraffes have actually gone through that? And our statistics show that zookeepers are actually doing a very good job protecting and caring for these animals. You see? But only if you recognize it, because most people will be scared and they will not be able to provide a good rebuttal to that. They will wait only to go with their arguments. And this is in between. They will miss it. So, what I would like you to do now is to have a go at the emotional appeal. This is the topic that school uniforms should be required. My personal opinion, they should, if you're interested. And this thing over here that I've just highlighted is what you would be expected to do at the debate. This is what a good argument and an example looks like at the debate. I will read the whole thing. So, today's motion is that school uniforms should be required, and we strongly believe that's the case. First of all, statistics show that school uniforms reduce bullying. Adopting a uniform policy can help decrease bullying in schools because they help to create a team culture and a sense of unity in schools. For instance, when all students are dressed alike, competition between students over clothing choices and the teasing of those who are dressed in less expensive or less fashionable outfits can be eliminated. Research by the Schoolwear Association found that 83% of teachers thought a good school uniform could prevent bullying based on appearance or economic background. Arminta Jacobson, founder and director of the Center for Parent Education at the University of North Texas, stated that uniforms put all kids on the same playing field in terms of their appearance. It probably gives them a sense of belonging and a feeling of being socially accepted. So, this is a well-rounded example. You have everything that you need. You have the topic-specific vocabulary. You have a trustworthy source because you're talking about an association. You have statistics, 83%, and you have a personal example by a leading authority. This person works in an organization at the University of North Texas. So everything that you need is here. However, let's say that you are about to lose the debate. Let's assume that you are the third speaker of the negative team. You have the chance to turn things around by using the emotional appeal. Let's see how you would do it. So what I want you to do now is to keep the topic. It's the same topic. You have the same argument because you need an objective, stable argument. What I want you to do now is to write the example with an emotional appeal. The way you usually do that is by talking about family members. It's about making people understand you better if you talk about their children. Yana, you were first to raise your hand.
Yeah, should we go on the side that there should be uniforms or there shouldn't be?
Yes, you're going on the side that there should be uniforms. David? David, you've raised your hand? He can't hear us. Neda, what about you?
Should we only write the example, not the argument?
Just write the example, yes. So in the chat box here, I've given you the topic and the argument, and I've actually given you the example from the first one. Wait, I need to correct this. So I will copy this. The last thing that I copied in the chat box.
What you said last, because my internet went out.
You sound like a transformer. But yes, what we're about to do now, David, is to write the example with the emotional appeal for this topic. So what you're actually doing is you are paraphrasing this in a way that will be a bit more emotional for the others. I will give you about 5 minutes, and then we're going to hear what you guys said. Okay? So 5 minutes starting now. I will pause the recording. If anyone needs anything, please let me know. I'll be happy to explain. Nico?
Teacher, so we should do it, for example, as we're talking to some grown-ups and referring to their kids and children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Teacher, can I ask you something?
Sure, absolutely.
What do you mean by example? Should we write the whole?
The emotional appeal, yes. Like the thing that I did for the giraffe.
So just the emotional?
Just the emotional appeal, write that.
Okay.
Yes. We won't have enough time to read all of them. We'll just read 2 or 3. Because then I'm going to move to another trick that I'm going to teach you. It's again, it has to do with hacking the human nature. These are really advanced tricks, by the way.
We don't have to, do we have to like use everything from the example in what we're about to say?
No, you don't have to. No. But it should go in that direction, but don't just paraphrase everything.
Teacher, how long should this be?
It doesn't have to be too long. I just need to see that you understand what we're dealing with.
Like in words, around 75 or 100?
It should be okay.
Yeah.
It also depends on how you're going to say it, of course.
Yeah.
How do you like it? Do you think it's useful to know about this?
Yes.
I think it's useful to know about this, but I would feel kind of bad if I use it in a debate.
If I was a judge, teacher, I don't know. It's weird for me
I wouldn't
because
get points, really.
I don't know, but I don't get affected by this. So if I was a judge, this would be like meaningless to me.
Oh, interesting.
In my opinion, if I was the judge, it sounds a little childish.
It does sound a bit childish. As
If I was
said
a judge,
at the beginning,
Because I don't know, teacher, I haven't seen anyone get like bullied because of like clothing and stuff like that.
Oh, I've seen. I have.
Maybe like if someone was like very poor, but about
listen,
uniform say.
Marco, it's not mostly about the topic. It's about the emotional appeal, really. Like with the one for the giraffe. Which one would you rather use, Marco? The first one or the second one?
Well, I would personally see like the second one like more, let's say, facty.
That's a good thing that you mentioned. Sometimes you won't be able to find the facts for everything. I mean, I know that you care about. I mean, I feel that you know a lot about science. You seem like a sciencey guy. So I think that you would always be able to find statistics for anything science related. But if I gave you something that you're completely oblivious to, sometimes you'd have to freestyle and you would.
Yeah. But teacher, I like prefer the facts because I feel more like comfortable like that it is right what I'm saying, that's correct, that's checked, like no one can disprove me. And I think that even the judges will like
respect it more.
Yeah, respect it more than the one.
I'm very glad that you guys think this. I mean, I've taught you well. Okay, we are running out of time. So we have to really start reading. Have
what
you
if
finished?
we're not done?
Finish it, come on.
Done.
30 seconds.
No, I'm not, I'm halfway there.
30 seconds, Yana, come on.
Teacher, I didn't use much of the example you gave us.
It's fine, you don't have to. Okay, Sarah, have you finished?
I mean, kind of, it's short.
Okay, so I have resumed recording because now we're going to move on to reading the examples. Sarah, you mentioned that you have finished, so can you please read yours?
Sorry for interrupting. Can you just go back to the example for the
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
can you? Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, can you read yours? But when you
Yes.
do, please connect it to the topic and the argument. Do everything together. It should be a whole unity.
I wrote it down as if I've already started debating and I'm using it as an argument.
Good, go.
So I started off as my first argument is about the amount of money the students have. Some students don't have a lot of money and can't afford to buy new clothing from themselves. Imagine you're a parent and see your child getting bullied because you couldn't afford to buy them a new shirt or a new backpack.
That's it?
I mean, I couldn't think of anything else.
Shortish. Yes, you are in the right direction though. You could expand it by saying, imagine your kid coming home from school crying every day and begging you to buy fancier clothes, but you simply can't afford it. So that's what you should be doing. Dig deeper. Anyone else? Does anyone else have an example?
I have an example.
David?
Should I read just the example, right?
Read everything, please.
Okay. Hello. Today we're talking on the motion that school uniforms should be required. We think that school uniforms really should be required, and my argument for that is that statistics show that uniforms reduce bullying. Adopt a uniform policy can help decrease bullying in schools because they help to create a team culture and sense of unity in schools. My example for that: bullying, as we all know, is a very bad and excruciating experience. I think we can all agree that we wouldn't like to get bullied. And we also know that the styles of dressing and fashion is a very common reason for being bullied. So, imagine your kid, someone that you deeply care about, getting bullied, being laughed at because of the choice for clothing his parents chose for him, feeling bad and defenseless for something he didn't even do. Going through that tough time just because he is different in terms of clothing. How would that make him feel?
You used all the right words. This is a great emotional appeal. You used defenseless, which is a word full of meaning. You used excruciating, which when you just say it, you get an emotional reaction from people. Because the word sounds wrong, excruciating. It sounds like a spell or a curse that Voldemort would cast, like excruciating or something. And you also used rhetorical questions. You said, how would that make you feel? So you are engaging the listener to listen even more attentively. Good job. You get it, guys.
Teacher, can I read
Yes,
mine?
Marco? Yes.
It was really good.
Teacher, can I try?
Okay,
Sure.
hello everyone. So the motion for today is that school uniform should be required. So I strongly believe that if students wear uniforms, that will prevent bullying by the style of clothing, and everyone will be dressed the same. So that will really decrease the amount of bullying that happens in the school, because I believe that kids, when they're together wearing the same uniform, they feel more united and feel more free to talk to each other, express each other. So research done by the School Board Association has also found out that 83% of teachers think that wearing a uniform is good. So because that could prevent bullying. And just imagine like coming home and seeing your child, your most loved, beg for you to buying new fancier clothes just because he's getting bullied by kids because of his style of dressing and clothing, even though you don't have money for that. How would you feel?
Wonderful. Excellent. You get the point. Doncho also finished. Doncho, would you like to read yours, please? And we'll wrap up this part. We'll continue with the rule of three.
I don't want.
You don't want to? Okay. All right. So let me just summarize this for anyone who might be watching this later. The emotional appeal, a high-risk, high-reward move, which is to be used only when you're behind as a last resort. What you're doing is you're abusing the emotions of the judge and the opponents, and you can achieve that by storytelling, like what you did, words which are packed with meaning, everything that we really talked about when we were writing the story or the poem. Everything that we said there works here. Also, by a general passion in the delivery, you should really be persuasive about what you're saying. Then we concluded with the example where I showed you on a well-rounded example, which is something that you should be doing, and then I showed you how it can be tweaked with the emotional appeal. I will stop the lesson now. Please rejoin for the next one. The next one will be a bit shorter. So.